in that GoToWebinar control panel, usually in the upper left-hand corner there, you're going to have a little red arrow button that is going to let you either minimize or maximize that control panel to give you access to either, when minimized, seeing more of your computer screen to see what we're talking about here in our webinar, or if you maximize it, to give you access to the different options there in that control panel, such as the questions section there. You know, if you have questions on this topic as we go through our webinar here today, feel free to go ahead and type those in, and we'll be getting back to you as quickly as we can on those questions. We may need to hold off until the end of the presentation, which should go for approximately 20 minutes. And then once we are done with that, I can go through the questions list and see if we have anything we can hit on. Please keep the questions to the topic at hand, which is basically the basics of membership reporting that we're going to be going through here. Okay, so again, today's topic are the standard report formats in the membership module of Church Windows. Anybody who has our regional training manual workbooks can follow along. This is going to be from the manual, which is M204, the Membership 204 book. It's going to be through pages 13 through about 28 here today. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Today we're going to be working with Church Windows version 19.16.1. That service release 1 was just released very recently. You should have gotten an email informing you about that update. You can go to our website at churchwindows.com and go to our download current updates page there, and you'll be able to find that download for the 19.16.1. I'm going to go ahead and open up our membership module by clicking on that membership button from our opening image map, and it takes us here. Today we're going to be talking about running reports, so I'm going to click on my reports button. That is going to take me to this menu, and I'm going to select reports/directory/export. When you click on that button, it takes you to a window called Step 1. You'll see that in the upper left-hand corner of that window. This window is where you are going to determine which records are going to be pulled out of your membership database for purposes of your reports. This helps you determine whose records show up on your report. And also from this Step 1 window, you can determine the order that those records appear, or the sorting of those reports. In the upper left-hand corner of this window, you'll see a series of tabs. The People tab is the first thing it opens up to, and this is where you do your searches. If you leave this defaulted as it is going to give you everybody from your member and your visitor file in the membership module that does not have a reason for termination on their record. But you can break down your search a little bit more specifically by clicking on the down arrow right here underneath where it says select a membership field and picking what you want to search by. Really, any field that you have in the membership module, you should be able to search by that criteria. I'm getting a message that maybe there's no sound coming through. Everything I'm looking at, it looks like I should be there should be sound going through. Hopefully everybody can hear me here. Nothing I'm seeing is leading me to believe that there is. Okay, good. Everybody, it looks like everybody's getting sound. Okay, great. Anyway, this is where you do your search for what you're going to be pulling out of the system. I'm going to use the status field for our purposes of our discussion here. In the Church Windows membership module, the status field is where is what determines membership status with your church. So this is a commonly searched for field. Again, this could be any search criteria. It could be based on birth date. It could be based upon a particular group or class that people are in. So, really anything that you track in membership, you can search by. For the purposes of our class here, I'm going to pull out a list of our members. So I'm going to go with active members, associate members, and inactive members. I'm going to leave the out-of-town members out of it. And when you've done your selections here, you click your plus selection button, and you'll see it plop down under the box here where you can see the report that you are running here. In the upper left right-hand corner of this screen, there's a giver number box here where you can limit your search based on giver numbers. If you only want a listing, for example, of folks who have giver numbers, you'd uncheck include those without number. Or you could even search by a particular range underneath that. Again, if you just leave them both checked, it's going to search everybody in your database regardless. The section below that there's a series of checkboxes underneath there where you can select folks from your member file or your visitor file. Terminated or inactive folks is that checkbox there. If you're doing more specific searches from your donations module, the tabs in the upper left-hand corner that say giving and pledging, as well as accounts, you'll need to take a look at those. I'm not going to cover them for our webinar here today because those are more specific donation searches. But I do want to point out the sort tab in the upper left-hand corner. This is the order in which all of your records are going to appear when you print your report. So you'll see here in the upper left-hand corner where it says sort field 1, if I click on my down arrow, you can sort by anything from your membership module. Common ones would be name. Name, there's several name selections here. We're going to go with last name, then they're going to be grouped together by family, and then first name. What that means is if there are multiple people in the same household with a last name, for example, if there are children from a prior marriage with a different last name, they'll still be grouped together with everybody in the same household. But outside of that, it will group alphabetically by last name. Other common ways you could sort your reports would be, for example, by zip code or by birth date or anniversary date and things along those lines. But I'm going to go ahead and do it alphabetically by last name. Once you've got everything that you need selected here, you simply click the next button in the lower right-hand corner. And it takes you to the Step 2 page. In the upper left-hand corner of this window is where your different formats are located. These up here. And we're going to talk about several of those for our webinar here today, starting with the basic report. When you select the basic report, you'll see listed down below the particular format of that basic report you're going to be using. The one that's built into our program is called the basic Columnar report, which is name, address, and phone number. There are several options here in the in the upper right-hand corner, whether you're going to include the bracket V and the bracket D next to their name to designate whether they're from the visitor or the donations file, respectively. And some other options, whether you're going to include the year if you're including birth dates, whether you want the last name to be entirely uppercase or just the first letter of that last name is this checkbox here. There is also a grouping / page break options tab where you can have your report kind of skip to the next page. For example, on primary sort field, if I page break on primary sort field, every next letter we go to, it's going to go to the next page. So all of your A's will be together. It'll skip to page 2 for all of your B's, etc. is how that works there. Okay, So let's just go ahead and click our print button in the lower right hand corner of that window to take a look at our basic columnar report. It looks like this. You'll see a column for first name or for their name, an address block column, as well as a phone number column. That's the basic report that comes kind of built into our system here, that basic columnar report. But you can customize the way in which this report displays, the way it prints out. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about, is kind of customizing our basic reports. Let me go ahead and exit out of here and go back to our step 2 page. The first thing we want to talk about is editing your headers at the top of that window. You'll see where it's, for our basic report here, when you select that here, there's a drop-down list below that where you can save multiple formats for the basic report. And each of these can be edited by using the buttons over to the right. If I were to have my basic columnar report and I click my edit button, it's going to greet me with this window right here, where you can control kind of the column headers here. So you'll see here, it's going to show you your organization name is at the top of your report. It's going to show you the date of your report here. And again, this is all at the top of your report. Let's say, for example, though, that we're going to want to give our report a header at the top. Remember a moment ago I selected all of our members of our church, and I want to give this, call this a report of members by status. And I just click in this box and start typing. And I simply type in that box. Okay. Now, if I want to save this, I click my Save As button in the upper left-hand corner, and it's going to take me to this to enter a name for our layout. We cannot save it as the basic columnar report. That is built into the system, and you cannot overwrite it. You have to give this report a different name. I'm going to call this our membership status report. When I click OK, then I can close this window by clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner. If my computer will agree to let me close it. Thank you, computer. It takes us back to this window, and now you'll see where it says membership status report. So that's that newly formatted report. Now at this point in the process, it's still that name, address, and phone number format that we started with. But if I wanted to edit what appeared on the report, I can use the Select Fields button next to that. So if I click Select Fields, it takes me to this window where we can tell the system what we want to appear on our report. Again, you'll see the default settings over here on the right side underneath visible columns: name, address block, and home phone number. I'm going to go ahead and change this so that it includes their name, their status in the system, and I'm going to have it also include, I'll keep the address block on there. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want my home phone number on my report. And really, keep in mind, this goes for any fields. This is just this one specific report I'm creating here. It's flexible to include whatever you want. If I want to remove a column, I select my home phone number. And notice these two little arrow buttons in between. I'm going to click on the arrow button pointing to the left to take it from visible columns and put it back over here under available columns. I also want to include their status on the report. So I'm going to go locate that status field. I select the status and I click on my right arrow. You'll see it plop over here onto my report on the right side. You can change the order of the fields that you display by using these arrow buttons on the far right. And if I want to move my status up, I can click on my up arrow, and it changes the order that my my columns appear in. There is a column header section here, which is that second column, where you can tell the system what to name each of your columns. Let's say, for example, I want to change it from status, and I'll call it membership status. And when I click OK, that's going to be that column header. I want to show you real quick. When I click print, you're going to notice that it's going to be very strangely formatted here. First of all, you'll notice our address block doesn't even appear on our report. If I go to page 2 of our report, you'll see that we didn't even have enough room on our page for the address to appear. So I need to change my report so all of this stuff will fit. If I close this window and I go back to the Select Fields button, notice that the final thing here is the width of each column. I don't need this amount of space for all of these fields, especially status. I don't need nearly this amount. So I'm going to edit that so it goes down to 10. And I'm going to set these name and address down to 20. Notice the little asterisk for width, number of characters that you're giving for space, and it's more of an art than a science. So usually what you do is you play with these widths and go look at your report until you're happy with the way it formats. When I click OK, it saves those new widths. When I click print, there is our new report. So if I wanted to, I could make our membership status a little bit wider on there, but we don't have enough time to really kind of play with this more than that, but that's basically the way all of that functions for your basic report. Just so we get a nicer looking report for our training class here, I'm going to make that column a little wider for membership status actually. I'm going to make that 15 and print it again. So yeah, that's a little easier to read, I think, now. So that's how you kind of customize these basic reports until you get them looking the way you wish them to look. And if I go back and click on my down arrow, you'll notice that our basic Columnar report is still here. All of the different formats that you select, you can go back and look at any time. Okay, let's take a look at our All Information report next. When I click on All Information, the basic All Information report is the one that comes with the program, and it is basically all of the info that you get out of membership. If I click on print here, I'll show you what it looks like. Here is Jen Arnold's information, and you'll see it is everything that you have on this person in the system. There's the house, there is Richard Arnold's information listed below that. So this is a everything everybody report, for everybody report, all that information. The same, you'll also see options in the upper right hand corner that are similar to the basic report. It's going to include an All Information Options tab, and if you go on here, there's another version of this report where you can print empty fields. So even if you don't have information in a particular field for somebody, it'll still print that field with a blank space next to it. This is a useful report you can print out and give to your members so they can fill in any information that you don't have on them. This is a pretty complete record here, but if you didn't have their home phone number and you didn't have their address information, these would be blanks on this report. You could give this to one of your members. They can fill this out for you so that your data entry folks can then get this information into the Church Windows program. Okay, that's your All Information report. I do want to touch on the directory report as well, and that's the last report we have time to look at here today, unfortunately. When I select my directory, I assume it's going to give me something odd here. I'm going to go find the basic multi-column report. Oh, classic multi-column directory. The default format for a directory report. Now, the thing I want to point out about the directory report is that this keys on the include on directory field from membership. In order to show up on this report, folks must have an include on directory code equal to yes on their record. If it is blank, or if it is a N or no code, then folks will not appear on this directory. You have to tell the system specifically to include folks on the directory. It also uses the field called directory/report order to determine how to format a particular family. So when I click on print, here is the basic format for that directory. You'll see the folks in the family. Here's Lewis, Jonathan, and Dorothy. The line below that is going to be their children's names, and you'll see address information listed below that. That is the basic format, one of the basic formats that comes built with the Church Windows program. We are short on time, unfortunately, but I do want to point out that you can control the output of your directory very specifically by editing all of the fields that are available in that directory. Next to where it says Classic Multi-Column Directory, there's still an edit button, much like there was for the basic report. But customizing the way the directories appear is a much beefier process. When I click on Edit, it takes us to another Report Designer window. And this time, you're going to see basically the nuts and bolts of the way your directory is formatted listed in this section in the middle. If you look over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice you can select Membership Field underneath where it says Data Controls on the right side. And you can add specific fields to your directory wherever you choose to put them. So if I plop this field right here, you select what field that is. And this is everything from the membership module. So you can include whatever information you want to. Birth date, membership status, baptism date, anything that you have in membership. That, however, more information about specifically how to do that is a topic for another class. That's all the time I have here for you guys here today. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me here today. In the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel is a little red X. Feel free to go ahead and click on that X to go ahead and leave the webinar here today. Thanks for joining me here, everybody. I hope you have a lovely afternoon. If you have any questions, you can also type those questions into that questions box now. So I will wait and see if anybody has questions at this time.